Welcome to Whispers After Dark, the place where the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifying come to life. Tonight, we're diving into a chilling tale from the Appalachian Mountains, where strange disappearances and whispered legends hint at something lurking deep in the woods. This is Whispers in the Woods, the Missing of Black Hollow. Before we begin, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Now, let's get into our story. The disappearance of the Carter family, March 14, 1982. It started like any other hiking trip. In March of 1982, the Carter family, James, 38, his wife Linda, 34, and their two children, Michael, age 10, and Sarah, age 7, set off for a weekend camping trip in Black Hollow, a remote area of the Appalachian Mountains in eastern Tennessee. They were experienced campers, but when they didn't return home, search teams combed the area. They found only their campsite still intact, tent unzipped, food half-eaten, and the family's belongings untouched. But the Carters were gone. No footprints, no signs of struggle, just silence. A single Polaroid camera was found near the tent. The last picture on the roll, a blurry, shadowy figure standing between the trees. On March 16, 1982, 2 days after the Carters vanished, an elderly hunter named Gerald Lawson stumbled into a ranger station, shaking with fear. He had been camping just a few miles from Black Hollow and swore he saw something unnatural. "I heard voices," he told rangers. "Not like normal people talking. It was whispered, like they was trying to decide something." He described figures moving in the dark, creeping low to the ground like animals. They weren't wearing no real clothes, just scraps, barefoot. Faces were wrong, too long, too pale, and their eyes black as night. Lawson claimed he heard a child screaming before everything fell silent. By morning, he packed up and left, not daring to stay another night. Authorities launched a week-long search of the Black Hollow area. Helicopters, dogs, and over 50 volunteers scoured the forest. They found Michael's blue jacket hanging from a low tree branch, torn at the sleeves. A child's footprint in the mud, but it wasn't alone. Larger barefoot prints surrounded it, like something had been following. A crude symbol carved into a tree near the family's last known location. It resembled an eye with jagged lines, an old Appalachian warning sign that meant stay away. No bodies, no further signs of the Carters. The case went cold. Black Hollow has long been feared by locals. Older generations tell stories of the Hollow Men, a rumored clan of wild, inbred mountain people who stayed hidden for centuries, attacking travelers who wandered too deep into their land. Some say they snatch people for food. Others believe they steal children to keep their bloodline alive. A few whisper that they're not human at all. Years later, in 1996, a group of hikers ignored the warnings and camped in the same area. That night, they heard low, clicking sounds outside their tents, almost like a language. In the morning, they found a single human tooth embedded in the bark of a tree near their site. They left immediately. The Carter family today, are they still out there? The Carter family was never found. No remains, no leads, no closure. Some say they were taken deep into the mountains, assimilated into the wild clan that lurks beyond civilization. Every few years, a new disappearance occurs in the Black Hollow region. People go in, but they don't come out. And sometimes, just sometimes, hikers report hearing whispers, soft, raspy voices on the wind, right before they realize they're not alone. For years, Black Hollow remained eerily undisturbed. The forest, as if caught in time, had a way of quietly swallowing secrets, protecting its darkness from the outside world. But that fragile peace was shattered in 2019 when a group of young campers vanished without a trace. They had been hiking in the same area where the Carter family had disappeared decades before. Their friends called for help when they didn't return, and after days of searching, the authorities knew they had to send someone in. That someone was Park Ranger Ethan Reynolds, a seasoned officer who had patrolled the surrounding wilderness for years. He was no stranger to lost hikers or stray campers, but this situation felt different. There was a weight to it, a lingering feeling of dread. When Ethan arrived at the campsite, the air was thick, almost too still. The tents lay slashed open as if something had ripped through them with violent force. But there was no sign of a struggle, no broken equipment, no signs of a rushed departure. Nothing was taken, not even the food that sat half-eaten on the ground. There were no footprints leading away from the camp, only the smooth, undisturbed earth that seemed to mock the very idea of human presence. The forest stood silent, too silent, with only the occasional creaking of the trees above as the wind moved through them. Ethan's unease grew as he searched the area, his flashlight flickering as the shadows deepened around him. As he turned to leave, something caught his eye. Just off to the side, a tree with fresh carvings, deep gouges in the bark that didn't belong. The marks were too precise, too deliberate. His stomach turned as he stepped closer, the familiar shape of the jagged eye symbol staring back at him. The same symbol found decades ago, etched into the trees near the Carter family's campsite, meant to keep people away. It was unmistakable, yet beneath it something new was written, freshly carved into the tree, as though the words had been scratched there only moments before. We took them too. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. His flashlight flickered again, casting strange shadows over the words. The phrase seemed to pulse with a life of its own, as though it had been waiting for him. The silence around him felt oppressive, as if the forest itself had become aware of his presence, closing in. He had seen many unsettling things in his career, but this felt different. This felt like a message, one meant to be found, but one that shouldn't be understood. He stepped back, his heart pounding in his chest. Something moved behind him, just out of view, the rustling of leaves, a distant sound that wasn't quite a whisper, but something just as unsettling. The weight of the forest was too much. With his instincts screaming at him, Ethan turned and ran. But as he fled back to his vehicle, he couldn't shake the feeling that, deep in the shadows of Black Hollow, something, or someone, was watching him, waiting. The whispers of Black Hollow weren't just stories, they were alive. That was the last time anyone camped in Black Hollow. But even today, on cold, windless nights, some say you can still hear the whispers. And if you do, run. Truth or legend. So how much of this story is true? The Carter family never existed, at least not by that name. But the Appalachian Mountains are filled with real cases of unexplained disappearances, strange symbols, and chilling encounters deep in the wilderness. Gerald Lawson's story? It's eerily similar to accounts from hunters and hikers who claim to have seen people in the woods, moving in ways no human should. The whispers, the strange footprints, the feeling of being watched, all real reports from those who have dared to explore too deep into the mountains. And the most unsettling part, Black Hollow may not be a real place on a map, but the stories, they come from somewhere. So, what do you think? Could there really be a hidden group of people, cut off from civilization, living in the mountains? Have hikers simply let their fear and the isolation of the wilderness play tricks on them? Or is there something older lurking in the Appalachian woods? Something that doesn't want to be found? Let me know what you believe in the comments. And if you ever find yourself deep in the Appalachian wilderness, miles away from another soul, listen carefully. Because if you hear whispers when no one is around, you might not be as alone as you think. Thanks for watching this episode of Whispers After Dark. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think there's truth to the legends? And be sure to join me next time for another eerie journey into the unknown. Until then, Stay curious, stay cautious, and beware of the whispers after dark.